Who is this girl I see on my computer screen? She doesn't look like Disney's Mulan, I know. Hello everyone, this is Gene from NYC again, and I'm back with another video. So first off, I'd like to start off with some good news. I am now officially one person past 100 subscribers. Thank you all. Thank you all. I started doing this, about 6 months ago, and I've just been steadily growing. I know that there's still a lot of issues with my videos. A lot of them were just, literally just push the record on the camera phone. There's been lighting issues. I don't often have proper props, so funny stand-ins. I was constantly using my Ghost in the Shell DVD to stand in for anything related to Captain Marvel. My production has improved ever since I got my computer a few weeks ago, but through it all, you guys have been there. You've been watching and subscribing. I even have one video, which is the Jax video, that got over 1,000 views. That's so far my highest video yet. So, I know that there are channels out there that are better produced, that have better sound quality, that have a content creator who isn't constantly, saying the same things over, or coughing, or having random city noises interrupt what they're saying. So the fact that you guys still choose to come back and subscribe means a lot to me. So thank you very much, as something squeaky past the window passes by. Damn city noises. Anyhow, see what I mean? Again, thank you all so much for sticking with me. My goal is to improve and to produce better videos and to cover different topics. So we'll see what the next 6 months bring. And as always, I'd like to welcome, whether you're welcome the viewers, welcome subscribers, whether you've been here from day one or this is your first day. Welcome. I hope you enjoy the video. So the video is going to be about the Mulan trailer that just dropped. I've watched it a good 3 times now. Try to figure out how I want to approach it, because I'm actually have a lot of opinions about it, and they're sort of conflicting. The best way I can describe it is that, similar to how I feel about the Ariel casting, is that this is definitely not the 1998 Mulan. They're definitely not going in that direction. That's one of the things I noticed immediately with this trailer. It's very serious. I wouldn't call it dark, but I would say it's very heavy. It's very heavy on the action side, on the warrior, the legendary warrior part of Mulan, right? It does reference some of, how she'll bring honor to her family, right? There's references to, her now, getting married or having to get married, which is a little different from the Disney version, where she didn't have to get married at that moment, but she had to present herself to the matchmaker, basically to show that she could be a perfect bride. But I don't think they had anybody set up for her to marry, though I could be wrong. But here in the trailer, her father mentions that, her mother and her father mention that a husband has been chosen for her. And she clearly looks distraught by this, but then her father says, of course, right, that it's best for the family. So it's hitting the general beats, but it's definitely not Disney's Mulan, which I think helps and hurts. I think it helps because, again, it's at least being honest, that they're not trying to bring the 1998 version to life, that they're going in a different direction. On the other hand, I think, that was helps. I think I said hurts earlier. That's what helps. That at least it visually stands out as very different than the 1998 film. How I think it hurts is that again, it's not really recognizable. If you watch the trailer and you remove any references to Disney, right? If you just put it out of your head for a moment that it's a Disney film, that it's Disney's version of Mulan, you wouldn't know that it's Disney's version of Mulan. There's nothing Disney about it. Again, it's much darker. It's much more serious. It has much more of a dramatic element to it. Even the action scenes are clearly wuxia, right? If you're not familiar with the term, wuxia is a genre of Chinese film, which is about Chinese warriors and supernatural feats of martial arts. A good example of a wuxia film, especially well known to Western / American audiences, would be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And definitely during some of the war scenes, some of the fights toward the end of the trailer, she's definitely pulling off, impossible wuxia tricks like spinning in the air and flipping around some sort of structure. So they're definitely applying wuxia elements to the action parts of the film. So again, that I think, again, it could lean into not making the movie recognizable for Disney's audiences, which actually may be what they want, considering that from what I remember hearing, that the Disney version back in the late 90s actually didn't do too well in Chinese box offices because it was, for their perspective, it was too Americanized. Right? They even had Jackie Chan playing in the Chinese version. He did the voice of Captain Chang. And I don't think the film flopped in China. I don't recall that, but it didn't do as well as Disney wanted, even for back then, and certainly now, given that the Chinese box office is much more important than it was 20 years ago. They especially wanted to do well now. So I think actually visually they're really trying to move away from the Disney version, which again I think is a, pardon the pun, double-edged sword. It's going to help in some ways, it's going to hurt in some ways. I think especially with brand recognition, I think that's how it's going to hurt the most. Now, as a trailer, I think it's just fine. I think it's great. Actually, I think that if it weren't associated with a Disney film, I would definitely be hyped for this movie. I think the trailer is great in storytelling. It gets, again, the general beats. There's this great part where I'm guessing it's supposed to be, generally speaking, the honor to us all section, where she's at the matchmaker and she's being made up to be a bride, and it's juxtaposed with her training and doing, katas and basically just basic sword exercises and stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting. Then there's a few quick shots of her in the training camp. Then it looks like they're fighting the Huns. There's one scene of her where she's firing a bow and arrow, of course, right? She has to be an archer now, which does not surprise me. I mean, a lot of franchises have the female archer now because of the success of the Hunger Games franchise. So I'm not really surprised by that. Plus, I do know that for maybe it doesn't exactly apply, but I do know that, for example, for samurai, for Japanese samurai, regardless of gender, that you had to be at least a decent archer, because you had to ride on horseback and you had to be able to shoot even as the horse was moving forward. You had to be able to basically turn around and fire behind you. That's actually, to my knowledge, where the term parting shot comes from. It's from that riding and shooting technique where the horse is going forward but the rider is turning around behind them and firing at their pursuer. You had to be skilled in that. So again, that's what I know from Japanese warriors, right? In particular, samurai. So it's possible. I'm not saying for certain, but it's possible that Chinese warriors had to be able to do the same thing. So it could be. I'm not saying for certain it is, but it actually could be historically accurate, or it could be accurate to the Chinese legend of Mulan. Again, I would have to do a little more research into that. I'm not really checking to see if it's historically accurate or accurate to the myth. It's more of, again, this is supposed to be the live action version of a 20-some-year-old Disney film, so I'm comparing it to its origin story or original source, which is the film, not necessarily history or myth. Just to be clear, what I'm comparing it to, what my knowledge base is in regard to this film. I'm not looking for how accurate it is to the legend or to history. I'm looking at how accurate and how similar and dissimilar it is to the 1998 film. So there's that. So it is possible that it was required to be an archer if you were going to be a soldier in the Chinese army. Don't know. Could have been. Right, and so again, as a trailer, I think it looks fine, right? The wuxia elements, the little bit that I saw, looked great. It's just the most un-Disney trailer that I've seen. And yeah, so as a trailer, it looks fine. I think if it were a separate movie, I would be totally down for it. It's just that because it's supposed to be Disney's Mulan, it has that association with it. I'm always going to be comparing it to the 1998 film, right? But I really do think that this is going to be really Disney's Mulan in name only. It was reported well over a year ago that Mushu wasn't going to be in the film, that Shang wasn't going to be in the film, that they were going to introduce another character to replace him, sort of like a rival turned love interest, something to that effect. That to my knowledge, the villain, I think the Huns are still going to be there, but I think the real villain is going to be some sort of sorceress woman, if I remember correctly. They're taking out the songs, so really, it's Mulan in name only. Though it seems that from what I'm hearing, that they're going to at least have instrumentals of the tracks. Like, as you watch the trailer, an instrumental of Reflection plays. So that's interesting, but I was really hoping that they would keep Girl Worth Fighting For, because A, it's my favorite song from the film, and B, it's not, how do I put it, I think that it's one of those sequences you actually could reasonably work into the film, right? I can understand to an extent, especially if they go in with this more wuxia-inspired, serious, dramatic take, that you don't want to go, Disney Broadway musical and turn everything into a song and dance number. And so I can understand why you may want to take out I'll Make a Man Out of You, for example. But the whole thing about Girl Worth Fighting For is that happens. Soldiers do go on long marches even today. They go on long marches, they sing songs both to take their mind off the tediousness and the pain and to keep in step, and they do sing songs about girls. This is not uncommon. I don't see why they, again, not saying that they haven't, right? But from what I've heard, they've taken out all the songs. So from my viewpoint, I'm like, why couldn't they just do the basic, march sequence from the film, just take out all the slapstick humor stuff, right? Have them joke around, in a different, more realistic, more low-key way, especially since the general, whoever's going to be leading them and taking Shang's place, is probably going to be pretty stern. I would expect, soldiers who are following a very, stern commander to sort of, be low-key in their hijinks, anyway, so that they wouldn't be, noticed by him. But that's me. I always felt that Girl Worth Fighting For was the most realistic musical scene in the film. So that it's not going to be there, at least from what I'm hearing, it's not going to be there. It kind of bums me out. I also haven't heard anything yet, and I could be off, but I haven't heard or come across anything yet about whether or not they're going to be bringing back any of the voice cast, in particular the Asian voice cast, and give them, live action roles, like, Ming-Na Wen was the voice, or still is the voice of Mulan for the animated version. B.D. Wong was Shang. George Takei played one of the spirits. Right, I'm hoping, right, that they have a role in the film somehow. I was really hoping, in particular, Ming-Na Wen would get a role as Mulan's mother, but apparently it looks like that role's been taken by another actress. So maybe she'll feature in some other way. I haven't come across any news about BD or Ming-Na or other Asian voice talent from the original film coming back or being featured in any way. If you know something, let me know in the comments, send me a link, but I haven't come across anything. But again, I could be wrong. Alright, so what else is there? Oh, one more thing. Well, I thought the trailer was very good. Very different. Again, it's not your Mulan. It's not the Mulan that you saw as a little kid. It's not the Mulan I saw as a 13-year-old. Yeah, I think I would have been around 12 or 13 when the film came out. Something that I've noticed is that the trailer is definitely emphasizing Mulan the warrior, right? The legendary female warrior. There's several points. You actually don't see her in disguise as Ping for all that much, right? The beginning shows her, again, it's juxtaposing the matchmaker scene with her doing these sword katas. There's some brief shots of her in the camp as a male soldier. But the most prominent scenes, the ones that get the most time and just visually stand out the most, are the ones with her as Mulan, right? As Mulan with a sword in her hand. She's obviously female. She's not hiding behind a disguise, right? She isn't Ping. She isn't Ping the soldier. She's Fa Mulan. So they're really emphasizing the warrior aspect, which I think is fine. But what I found interesting again about Disney's version of the tale was that Mulan didn't start out this well-trained warrior. She's the daughter of a soldier, yes. But she didn't start out this well-trained warrior. She doesn't really learn how to fight, right, until she actually joins the soldier camp, right, until she actually impersonates her brother, or her fictional brother, Ping, and she joins the band of soldiers that way. That's when she learns to fight. And even when she starts learning to fight, she struggles, right? The whole thing about I'll make a man out of you is that Shang has to basically take the ancient Chinese version of the Bad News Bears and whip them into soldiers quickly. In fact, there's one point of I'll make a man out of you, right, where he gives up on Mulan, right? The line goes, "So pack up, go home, you're through. How could I make a man out of you?" And it's that section, it's that point, when she finally gets the idea to use the weights in a different way so that she can, scurry up not scurry, but she can pull herself up the pole and get the arrow that he shot. And it's after that we see that she actually starts progressing in her training and even, knocking Shang down once. So we see that we see her grow, basically, into this warrior role. We see her go from being a simple, normal, everyday Chinese farm girl, right, into the legendary warrior. It looks here that she's at least starting out with some experience. I'm not going to say that she's an expert swordsman or anything, but it is showing that she already has some experience in the martial arts, which I think could hurt the storytelling. But again, it depends on how the film fully plays out. But I do think it could hurt the storytelling because the interesting thing about Mulan was how, at least to me, was how this ordinary girl became this legend, right? Because she responded to these extraordinary circumstances, right? Like if there had never been a war, if her father hadn't have been conscripted, she just would have been, every other woman right? Every other Chinese woman of her day. Her circumstances and her having to respond to her circumstances are what created the legend of Mulan. Where it seems here that we're not going to get to see her grow, or at least possibly not see her grow as much, going from normal to excuse me, a legendary warrior. Right. The last thing is that at the very end of the trailer, she says that her duty is to fight. This irks me a tiny bit because of the fact that Mulan, at least again, to the Disney film, Mulan's duty was never to fight, right? Her duty was always to honor her family, right? Bring honor to us all. That was always her principal concern, even when she's dejected and heartbroken during the reflection sequence, right? She's dejected and sad because she feels that she has failed in bringing honor to her family, right? She believes that, she has to be a perfect bride, and the matchmaker sequence proved that she certainly is not, at least not to the traditional standards that she's expected to meet. And she's heartbroken that she may not be able to, again, honor her family. She's just not going to be able to honor her family. That's what she thinks. Even at the end of the film, right, when she's offered a government position by the Emperor of China himself, she turns it down and says, no, I just want to go home. Her heart's always been at home, right? She's always been a family girl, ultimately. That's always been her motivation, honoring her family. She even, joined the army because she didn't want her ill, injured, older father to die when he's being conscripted again. Right, that was her motivation. Her motivation was never really the war effort. Her motivation wasn't really that she personally wanted to serve or felt that it was her duty to fight or to be a soldier or to defend her nation. Her duty was always rooted in her family and honoring them. So again, that kind of irked me a little bit. Like, no, that's not your duty. That was never her duty. That being said, as I've said earlier, and said several times already, this is not the 1998 Mulan. So it's perfectly possible that this version, this take on her, considers it her duty to fight for her nation. So we'll see what happens. Again, I don't think it looks bad. I think actually of the Disney trailers that I've seen recently, I think it looks the best out of all of them. It's just, again, it ain't your 1998 Disney film. I think so long as audiences go in when it's finally released at some point next year, I think so long as audiences go in and don't expect the 1998 film just for live actors, if you allow this film to be itself, I'm hoping it will do well. But again, it's not 1998. Don't expect 1998. Disney's making it super clear with this trailer. This is not the 1998 Mulan. Don't expect the slapstick. Don't expect the big motorcycle. Don't expect the big musical numbers. Don't expect any of that, right? I would say, expect a dramatic, wuxia-inspired film, again, based in tangentially on the film. And, expect a movie about war. Again, I would definitely be stoked to see it if it didn't have the Disney label on it, because then it could truly stand on its own. This having the Disney label on it, I think, at least for me, kind of hurts, because again, I'm just gonna compare it to the 1998 film, even as I know that it's nothing, or has very little in common, I should say, with the 1998 film. So anyway, that's all that I have to say about it. Alright, so that's it. Those are my thoughts that, as usual, go on way too long. And let me know in the comments what you think, what whether you're hyped for this trailer and for the film, whether you're not. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a good Sunday, everybody. Bye.